Thank you, Thomas. So today my presentation, I'm going to take you through going through how we developed our business online security series in New Zealand last year. And the point of this talk isn't really to get you to look at the ultimate project and the campaign we launched and the video series we launched and think that's fantastic, that's amazing, because the important part is the thinking that we put in behind it to create it for a New Zealand audience, a New Zealand small business audience. And so that's really the takeaway that I want you guys to sort of pick up from this talk today. And there's a lot of things that I wish I had probably more time to speak to today that was sort of built into the work we do every day with small to medium businesses in New Zealand, such as the language we use when talking to them, like the fact that we called it a business online security series as opposed to a business cyber security series. And I'd love to talk about it for days. And so if you want to speak more, please come and talk to me afterwards. But first off, I'll talk about my second favourite thing, which is myself for a moment, me. So as I said, my name is Sophie. I've worked at CERT New Zealand since about 2020, and I've been in the communication space in the public sector for around 10 years, working in various different fields. And I was very fortunate to join CERT about a couple of years after it was established, and have some of the people overlap with me there who established CERT and really built it in to what it was when I got there. People like Nadia Youssef and Declan Ingram, and it was fantastic to learn with them. But the main point of that is I am not a technical person. So I've worked in communications, I am not technical. My brain doesn't really think in that way. My main focus is people and how we work with people and how we can understand behaviours to get them to really take note of things that we want them to, like increasing their cyber resilience and increasing their cyber awareness, and how we can work with people every day to make sure those things are happening. So I sort of wrote that there, people are my why, words are my why not, because I've never met a conversation that I couldn't join. But that kind of just sounded a bit profound, so I added it in there. And this, as Thomas said, is I am the unsung hero of two lads. And if you really want to know more about me, there's a little Easter egg there, which we can discuss after. So where do I come from? So as I mentioned, I joined CERT in 2020. And then last year we integrated with the National Cyber Security Centre. And since then, as part of the work that we're doing at CERT, when CERT was established in New Zealand, one of the main parts of it that I loved was it was a CERT for everyone. So it was a CERT for the New Zealand public, small to medium businesses, big businesses, the information security sector. People could report to us, we would help them with incidents. The information and education was designed for all different types of audiences. And then after being a part of CERT for a few years, we sort of realised that this word CERT or CERT New Zealand as a brand didn't really resonate with that audience, that small to medium business, that individual, because it didn't really mean anything to them. So we created this brand, Own Your Online, almost 2 years ago now, and that's the part that I'm going to focus on a little bit in the next slide. So the brand is mainly a website, but it's more than that. It's basically a hub of information for small businesses, medium businesses, everyday New Zealanders, where they can come and find security information. And it's presented in, hopefully, easy to digest ways with language that they can understand and really be helpful to their lives. And we try and drive traffic through with things like social media, campaigns, newsletters, so all that kind of good tangible stuff that drives people to our website. Now, the project, considering we were the cybersecurity agency for New Zealand and for businesses and individuals, if we take it back to about April last year, we were asked to be a part of a project that was driven by industry and government and ministers, where a group of them got together and said, we need to figure out the priorities for small businesses for the upcoming year. And fantastically, cybersecurity was part of that. They said we need to prioritise cybersecurity, we need to increase the resilience for small businesses, and we need to figure out a way we can do that. And so they came to us as their agency, and my manager Jane kindly agreed to take on this challenge. Now, the challenge itself was quite limited in information and broad in scope. So basically they wanted us to train 10,000 small to medium businesses in cybersecurity launch it really quickly. And I think even 6 months is generous. I think this was April, and they wanted us to launch it in August. And they didn't have any extra money for it. They wanted us to use our funding to do it. And then I returned to work about a couple of weeks later, having just had my second child. And Jane pulled me aside and said, so I think you need to lead this small business project. And I couldn't even remember my name, let alone how to do my job. But I sort of said, okay, this will be great. I'll spend the next 12 months figuring this out. And sadly, no. She said, we need to launch in August. And so the next part was, where to focus then? What did this mean for us? Thank you. Oh, thank you. So what did this mean? And so these were basically the general things: train. And I'm really, really pleased when Cornelia was talking about training the other day when it came to cybersecurity, that she had the same reaction that I did, which is basically like, training? Ugh, like, no. That traditional training model of getting someone to watch something or read something and take a bunch of questions and, try and embed their knowledge that way. It just doesn't work. And I'll go into a bit about why it doesn't work for small businesses in New Zealand later. But it doesn't even work for me. Humbly, I took a course recently, a 2-day course called Cyber Essentials. And having worked in this field for 5 years, I failed this 2-day Cyber Essentials course, sadly. Because it doesn't work for me. I can't read something and then take an exam and remember it. So yeah, that was quite a humbling experience that we won't dwell on for too long. Now this 10,000 SMEs number, it wasn't like it was a number, but it didn't really mean too much. But basically what it meant was it needed to have mass appeal. We need to make sure it was reaching a bunch of businesses within New Zealand. And it was engaging with them, because it wasn't a mandatory thing. It wasn't something that they had to do. We needed it to be something that they wanted to do. And of course, again, fast and on a very tight budget. Oh, sorry, that was my graphic for train, but you guys were laughing at my joke, so I missed it. Okay, so a little bit of the context around landscape of small to medium businesses in New Zealand. So we're a nation of around 5 million or so people. I'm not good with numbers, but around that. And we have over 550,000 small to medium businesses. So they are a huge part of our economy, and they're very diverse. So when we talk about small businesses in New Zealand, we talk about business from 0 staff to 49. And that in itself is really broad. But also, predominantly, them are sole traders, so people with 0 staff, so just a person at the end of the day. We know they're time poor, we know they juggle multiple hats, and in talking at the SIG that with Cornelia the other day, is we know they don't separate their business lives from their personal life. So security in their business life sort of needs to correlate to things they're doing in their everyday life as well. They also want to learn from other businesses and foster that sense of community. That's really how they engage with things. They don't really want to just be told things. They want to make sure that it's coming from people who have the experience. And we were also at this time fortunate enough to be undertaking some research with small to medium businesses in New Zealand to really establish their relationship to cybersecurity and what they were doing, what their sort of behaviours were, what the challenges were. And we also pulled in research from other areas. And one of the things that sort of is quite disheartening for me when looking at some of the research is, cybersecurity concerns are the biggest barrier to digital adoption. So it's stopping their business from growing. It's stopping them from taking on new tools and things like that could really help. And it is a really large concern for them, and it is affecting them. They are experiencing incidents, and they are having impact. So yeah, really, really important topic for them. We also know, though, that while it is a concern for them, it is not a priority for them. And we can understand that, right? Because there's so many other competing priorities, financial, that type of thing. And also, there's one of the main reasons as well is they don't think it will happen to them. So there's that apathy involved as well. A few of the other barriers to taking action include we keep forgetting, we feel like we're doing enough, we don't have time, we don't know, we don't understand how to do it. So when thinking about doing this training or piece of work, we really needed to understand how we could sort of take away the barriers of all these parts. We knew we needed to make it quick, easy, efficient, have very few barriers to entry, and we also needed to make them feel vulnerable, right? Because if they don't feel vulnerable, they won't engage, and they won't think that it's something that they need to do for themselves. Part of this research was really cool, was they were able to break that sort of the small to medium businesses that we spoke to as part of the survey into 3 broad groups. And these were based on how many of the basic actions that they were taking, and also things like whether they thought they were prepared for a cybersecurity incident. And the main one that we focused on as part of this project was that the cyber complacent, because as you can see, that's where 40% of the small to medium businesses that we surveyed were still sitting. So really at the entry level position, really needing to understand the basics still and take some of them on. So once we got to this point, we had done a bunch of the thinking. We had done a bunch of trying to understand what was the best way to engage with small to medium businesses, what training meant to us. So we really came to the conclusion that for us, training meant getting them to start increasing their cybersecurity awareness in hopes that they would then take the steps we would provide them to really increase their resilience. We needed to keep it simple. And as I mentioned, we had launched the On Your Online website a few months earlier, and it was a very low. It was a website that didn't have a huge amount of functionality because once again we did it, fast and on a budget. So we didn't have anything like a learning management system or anything like that. So we chose the format just to be simple videos, and actually we had some research done a couple of years prior that showed businesses really do engage with video content. We needed to keep very few barriers to entry. So the first one being the format with video. So ideally, when we were engaging with businesses, we would have wanted them to, tell us who they were, tell us how many staff they were doing, tell us what they were doing already. But again, that provides a barrier to entry because who really wants to sit down and fill in a bunch of questions before actually undertaking something like this? So we decided that it would just be an open source video that anyone could watch and not have to do any of that. The actions within the videos needed to be low cost, no cost as well. And of course, being from New Zealand, we wanted it to be interesting. We didn't want it to be sort of traditional videos that you just watch a few sort of people interact and try and learn from it. We wanted to inject humour. We wanted to have real people. We wanted to have real people that businesses could see themselves in. And of course, keep it short and snappy. So after that, we had this thinking, and while we did some great work on it, we aren't creative geniuses, sadly enough, but we were very lucky to have worked with a creative agency who developed Own Your Online and launched that for us. So we went to them with a bit of a brief of our thinking and asked them, how can you help us? What can you create that ticks all these boxes? And they, being much more creative and intelligent than some of us, put together this bit of a strategy in a nutshell, which really sort of summarised what we were trying to achieve, which is get New Zealand business owners and SMEs who are deprioritising cybersecurity, who don't see the value in it, taking actions for their business to sign up and participate in this training, demonstrating the impact that investing in or ignoring cybersecurity can have on their business. And one of the key thoughts was cybersecurity could change the fortunes of your business. And that obviously has that financial connotation as well, which is obviously a huge priority for small to medium businesses. So with this, they provided us a few different creative concepts that we could use, not only for the campaign that we would run as part of this work, but for the videos themselves that would have that the creative concept behind it. And I'll just show you the one we chose in the end, and I won't take you through the rest. But the insight into this one, which is cyber scammers use any means to fake their way into businesses and take away control from those who should be in charge. And this is a bit of a odd picture and a bit scary to look at, but I'll talk you through it. So the theme was unmask cybercrime. So learn all the way that cyber criminals fake their way into businesses by pretending to be business owners or staff or anyone like that, and how they get into your systems and then how you can protect yourself. And so we were having this masked motif throughout the video series. So we have the real business owner and their masked doppelganger. And the masked doppelganger is the cyber criminal. And they talk about how they get into businesses and all the things that they're trying to steal and do. And then the business owner talks through the protections that stop that happening. And they showed us this visual, which really had the impact of when we were looking to do the creative campaign and how that might look in digital media or out-of-home media like here. And it was a really nice juxtaposition of imagery here that we thought really would hook people in. And that tagline, "Don't let a cyber criminal run your business." Now, I am going to jump to the next slide, which is a picture of where we ultimately ended up. You will notice it's slightly jazzier. It's slightly more colourful. It's slightly softer than this. And was something that we are really proud of in New Zealand. Well, I can't speak for all of New Zealand, but for us, showing it in New Zealand. And so it wasn't as straightforward as just going from that to here. There were a few things that we also needed to grapple with as well. So we needed to actually narrow down the content. So we ended up with 5 short videos, 2 to 3 minutes long, that covers basic topics of cybersecurity. So things like passwords, password managers, 2-factor authentication, software updates, backups, protecting your websites, website hygiene and social media, how to spot phishing, and things like that. Now, really what we wanted to do was have real-life business owners in these videos portraying these scenarios and having real-life examples. Sadly, due to timeline, we couldn't do that. So we ended up having an actor throughout who would play these characters. But we really focused on what industries were the highest reported to us so that we could then hopefully have more engagement and impact that way as well. Because we really did want businesses to see themselves in it. Now, I think the next slide is a snippet of the video, which I'll play just like a short snippet of, if that works. Thank you, man up there. Hopefully. No, that's okay. You can watch it after. Go to our website, ownyouronline.govt.nz. Please give us the traffic. Okay. Anyway, I'll talk you through a little bit about some of the websites. As I said, it's that doppelganger, that masked doppelganger, talking about all the different ways they can infiltrate businesses. And I think the thing that is interesting for businesses, and something that was touched on by Dr. Nina in the sort of keynote, is when we see physical crime play out, we see what happens, we see, how it plays out in real life, how they break in, what happens, what they steal. When it's cybercrime, you can't see any of that. It happens behind the screen or, in the darkness. So we really need to show people and businesses what is actually happening. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to achieve? So in order for them to prioritise those protections and want to put them in place because they know how valuable they are. And hopefully with this sort of unmasked cybercrime motif in these, they get a small snippet of that and they see what's actually really happening when these cyber criminals attack businesses. If this plays when I push it, that's going to be awkward. No. Okay, so that's great. So we had the videos, but how do we get them to watch it, right? We can create the product, but how do we actually get them to engage? And part of that was that hook, that cyber criminal hook, and that advertising juxtaposition. And we had a small amount of money that we could then put towards driving people to these videos and getting them to watch them. But we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just an initial burst and then that was it. So we stretched it out over about 7 to 8 months, hoping that, if it was something that they saw the first time when we targeted them, through the digital media and they didn't engage with it, maybe the second time they would, and just really had that repetition going to see if they would engage. We also learnt from each run of digital media, so we would then, if something wasn't working, like a particular industry representation and the creative wasn't working on a platform, we would switch and adapt and filter the money elsewhere. And we had some really great results. So this is what the advertising looked like online. And you can see it was placed in, on news websites, on social media, that kind of thing. And the ultimate results showed that we had around 10 million impressions and around, again, not good at math, but around sort of 30,000 clicks through to the website. So it was really, really positive results from that paid media. But of course, that wasn't the only part that was driving them to this to the videos. We also wanted to share it wider. So partners for us are really important when it comes to sharing these messages. We know that, you know, small businesses from our research trust their financial institutions, they trust their accounting institutions. So how do we work with them so that we're not trying to achieve two jobs? We're not trying to gain the trust and get them to understand the information, but they're getting it from already trusted sources. And we use that small business industry group that really championed this piece of work to try and help with that. We were also really lucky that when we launched, it was around the time of our annual Cyber Smart Week, which is our annual cybersecurity awareness campaign, which has been built up over the years. So we had some really good support there as well, and we shared it through those channels. And of course, our own social media, newsletters, platforms, that kind of thing. So how are we tracking, and did we hit 10,000, and where did that go? So again, not a numbers person, and I'm very much a true crime person, and they have this theory called like Occam's razor, like the simplest theory is the best. So with measurements, the simplest theory is the best. So we took one view of a video as a business that engaged, and that's how we tracked how many businesses were doing this. So within the first 3 months, we had over 10,000 views to the videos themselves, and then to date, we've had around 20,000. And that's something that I am actually really proud of, because within the first 3 months was two bursts of paid media, and then in the time since that we've just had one, and we've sort of been trying to organically push it, and we're still seeing results from that. So that's awesome. How do we keep them on the journey? Because that's the important part. It's not just getting them to engage with this piece of work, but how do we keep them engaged, and how do we keep them on the cybersecurity journey and increasing their resilience? And making them a priority audience is important. It's taking the information that we get from other areas of the organisation, whether it be technical, and translating it, like Hayden Green said in his talk earlier this week around communications. Make sure your communications are fit for purpose. Make sure that you're prioritising the audience and the information that you're giving them. Make it easier for them. So we have like an online security assessment tool for businesses. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. They can answer a few questions and understand at what level their cyber resilience is and what they need to do to increase that. And meet them where they're at and make it easy. So we know from our research that most small businesses don't have an incident response plan. So we developed an incident response plan template that they could customise with their information when they had an incident. It had everyone they needed to contact and everything they needed to do. So make it really simple. And of course, keeping going is the important part. And we know why we need to do that. They're still early in their journey. They're a huge part of the economy. And when something happens to them, when an incident happens to them, it really undermines their trust in larger systems and institutions. What did we learn? Partnerships are key. If we really want to get this information in front of them and get them to really engage with it, we need to use our partners. Use opportunities to drive relevance. And I think Matthias in the data breach of Helsinki talk spoke earlier in the week around using like things like incidents to really drive this message home. So earlier this year, we had an increase in business email compromise on law firms in New Zealand, which are, you know, small to medium businesses. So we really use that opportunity to drive the relevance and push things like our information and education and tools and resources that we have available. Be there when they need it. You know, they just need awareness of that we're here. So when they do need it, they will find us. And behaviour change takes time. And because I have 5 minutes, I do have an anecdote for that. So when I started at CERT 5 years ago, I was going to the same hairdresser that I still use today. And when I started at CERT, I said, she's a small business. I said, you need to improve your cybersecurity because this will be embarrassing for me if something happens to you and I work for the government cybersecurity. You need to do it. And she just went, yeah. And then it wasn't until earlier this year, so 5 years on, after pestering her every year, multiple times a year, that she said to me, I've finally done it. I finally changed my passwords, enable two-factor authentication, backing up my systems. And so that was 5 years of pestering, and that's how long behaviour change can take. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel always honoured if we have New Zealand on stage, since I think you're so good in the communication part, where I see so many people lacking. Do we have any questions for Sophie here? then please make your way to the microphone. In the meantime, I'll mention the speaker survey that we're looking for feedback here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sophia, thank you very much for this brilliant presentation. I'm sure brilliant videos. I haven't watched them yet. I have a question about the topics that you cover in your training materials.
Yes.
One of the things that's very important for the resiliency or cyber resiliency of enterprises is the way they do their infrastructure. How they select their email provider, how they select their connectivity provider, where they store their data. I wonder, well, I didn't see this in the topics. I understand your sort of project was limited, really, but are you looking into this kind of what kind of requirements they should be looking for when selecting their different providers and suppliers?
Not specifically. Whenever we provide information and advice to businesses, say we're talking about password managers and things like that, we don't recommend particular things because we're government, we can't, but we give them hopefully the information they need to make the most informed decision about what product it is they are choosing. So I don't know if that answers your question directly, but we try where we can to say, if you are choosing a password manager, if not so much email systems, but other things like that, these are the things you look out for, and these are the things that make a good product.
And those things are published on your portal?
Yes, on youronline.govt.nz.
Thank you very much.
Oops, is the microphone? Yeah. Thank you so much. Really, really great. So many things that I really think like, wow, if only I can say this here, Switzerland would be doing this the same way. One thing that I was particularly interested is this whole idea around partnerships, something that we're kind of, I'm not from the national set, by the way, but something that we're in general thinking about quite a lot, and kind of the using partnerships and kind of trusted organizations of the actual constituents. How do you do that? Do you actually have a program? How does it work?
That's a great question. So we, within our team, the engagement and partnerships team that I sit within, we have a partnerships advisor who works with us to go out and try and make those connections to banks, to telcos, other partners that we use. Things like in New Zealand we have chambers of commerce, people like that, to develop those partnerships and just tell them that we're there and the service that we offer and the things that we can do them all for free, because they want those things, right? And if they don't have to pay for them, it's even better. So we work like through that structure, and our partnerships person has a strategy in place. And they also provide feedback to us as to what other resources and tools and things like that businesses want that we can be working towards as well.
Great, thank you. Actually, just a follow-up question, or maybe a comment on that. Earlier in the SIG communications, we talked about this kind of cacophony, whatever, of loads of kind of information on cyber, and very often it's kind of not even the same. And if I think of Switzerland, we have loads of different organizations sending out different information. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think, or we were saying this, it would be actually much easier if there would be something like a single voice. And in a way, is there something that you try to achieve as well, that you say like, hey, or banks and all the rest of it, you don't need to inform your constituents, look, we've got this material and we're the voice?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and a really good way of putting it. We try and, I think banks and other organisations want to do this for their customers as well. It's becoming such a prevalent thing that they really are working with their customers to try and make them more secure, which we think is great. We try and work with them to make it easier, and I know that whole thing of multiple organisations that they could go to and things like that. And I guess it's where that sort of partner strategy comes in place, so we can work together to figure out, who's talking to what audience, how can we help each other, and ultimately that sort of single authoritative voice piece is super important. But it's how we can work together to achieve that as well. Yeah, but great. I completely get where you're coming from that, and I think that's a great question.
There are no further questions. Then let's thank the speaker again.